like it when it's quiet?
I find it too noisy, this patient.
Alright guys, I'm about to jump in on some of these charts to do a very quick end of week recap on some of the bigger tickers that everybody's been watching and asking questions about. As always, if there's any tickers y'all want me to specifically look at, feel free to throw those into the chat and I'll try to take a look at them, but definitely want to cover several of these that people have asked about throughout the week, and then also see kind of what we're looking at analysis wise and why it is important to look at both directions on the charts and not just one way, right? So we're going to start here with Tesla. Just because I've got 4 requests already for this one on one of the Discords. If this is your first time watching or listening in, I appreciate it. Please do hit the like and subscribe button. Ultimately though, what we got going on Tesla, right? So just like we were looking for last week, we broke down from that pennant. We bounced at that level of support and confluence, and we bounced up here. We retraced and rejected off that pennant trend line. So this is actually a technical move that played out quite perfectly. If I look at the 4 hour here, you can see we rejected after that retrace and we've moved down. We've consolidated here in the zone. Today we retested this bigger long-term trend line that we've got going on here. So what happens now? Now we want to watch and see what happens into next week with Tesla to see whether or not it can hold this uptrend, specifically on the daily candles and the weekly candles, because as of right now, if you look at the weekly, it's not looking so hot, right? That is a bearish engulfing weekly candle. So it got a nice little bounce off that confluence of the trend line and that minor support level, but if we break down on Tesla, the measured move is probably going to push down that 345 gap fill here. If we can hold the trend and Tesla can get a double bottom bounce off this range right here, we could, push back up to 431.69 or higher. But you want to tread carefully on Tesla here. Like I've said for months now, it's really dangerous to swinging kind of options on Tesla, whether it's calls or puts if you're on the buyer side. I didn't realize it as much until I was actually selling covered calls on Tesla, which right now I've got, how many contracts open? Check. 7 covered calls open. I should have bought to close 3 of those earlier today, but I did not. But the premiums collected on the seller side are significant for Tesla, so definitely keep in mind on that, or an eye on that. So let's look at Nvidia next. What's going on with Nvidia? Because this is one of our major market movers right now. And apologies for all these extra lines in here. We were scalping some puts today, which ended up playing out fantastically. But that's why there's a lot of extra minor support and resistance levels drawn on some of these charts right now. So I'll clean those up as we're going through these stocks. But Nvidia is in a similar situation as Tesla right now, to where we're trying really hard to hold some uptrends that we have going on here. But I mean, that's a great example of a sell the news event followed by other economic events that came in. And for those that haven't figured it out yet, basically we got a bunch of jobs data. I shouldn't say jobless because that was only part of the data. But basically this week we got tons of data that hurts the narrative for the ability to continue rate cuts, especially in 2025. So even the thing I saw this morning was Bank of America revised their forecast for no rate cuts in 2025 based off the data. So as of right now, things are just looking not so good for rate cuts, which is kind of what I think some people were expecting, but apparently that was not priced into the broader market. So what do we got on Nvidia? Nvidia right now has formed multiple patterns that we need to keep an eye on. We broke the larger uptrend again that we had on the weekly. Let me show you on the weekly so you can see why these lines actually do make sense to have. But look at this trend line that we have that flows here, right? Notice how we broke down here, we retested, and we rejected at that trend both times. So not only there, but we bounced and we retested and we rejected again, also at this all-time high. So what you want to watch for here on Nvidia is whether or not next week we have more selling that's continuing. And some of the Nvidia sell-off and the AI and quantum stock sell-off we've got going on is related to Jensen's comments for quantum computing not being realistic for another 25 plus years. But all in all, this is why the technicals are important to keep an eye on. and then keep an eye on for the news for what I like to call the excuse for the technical movement taking place. So, and thanks, Maria, for that subscription. What I'm looking for here on NVIDIA is whether or not we continue and we break back down here, or if we can actually, retake the trend and push back up. It's not looking great, if we're being real, and I'm really frustrated with myself because I was focused on some shorter dated options back on Tuesday when I fully intended to sell covered calls on my NVIDIA shares right open, and I didn't. And I should have just went ahead and sold them later on in the morning session whenever I thought through it, and I didn't. So now I'm a little exposed on my NVIDIA shares, but it is what it is. I will look for another pop opportunity to sell those. I want people to be careful on the charts here in the coming days and weeks, because while we can definitely consolidate in the zone, push higher, or hold, you're going to see a lot of people get trapped into calls like they did yesterday and today without kind of looking at the charts from both perspectives. I think AMD is a really good example of that, unfortunately. I mean, I don't say that being bearish. I say that trying to explain a bit more of why it's good to be more unbiased when you're looking at your charts and your trading, because even though I'm a bull at heart, I want to be realistic, and I don't want people to get trapped and learn the hard way like many of us did. So what I've been watching on AMD, if you've been listening to any of the streams, is overall larger term downtrend, right? So high, low, lower high, low, lower high, low, lower high, right? So this is not looking so hot on AMD, and in fact, let me show you here. The only beneficial thing that AMD has right here that may help it pull back up is these gaps it left on the daily. When and how long it'll be overall before those get filled is kind of the whole different question here. But right now what we have is yet another bear flag setup going on here, where we've broken the bear flag to the downside, and the measured move would put this around that 107.50 level. So I know a lot of people are kind of averaging into shares on AMD in this range just because it's so beat down, and you can be okay doing that if you're looking to hold longer term. Definitely a dangerous spot, and this is why, probably a good example. And just to clarify, I'm not saying this is like a told you so, but more so of I wish people just would like maybe not be so bullish, biased in nature, which I know that that's just how retail trading is, because I've been there. But you got to look at it from both perspectives. So scalping calls or scalping puts on setups in this range would have been one thing, while swing puts would have played out and paid out very well. The risk to reward was high. So the same reason I didn't trade calls, I didn't trade puts, but also the larger term trend that we have here, or the prevalent trend, is down on AMD. So we broke to the downside. What I was saying though previously when we were looking at the NVIDIA chart is I want people to be careful here, because when we get in this range, people will start buying the dip with calls, especially shorter dated calls, with that mindset that it's got to bounce, right? And it does and doesn't. So if something doesn't bounce, like the last 3 days, good example of, continued pain. Also, you could be buying calls, and unless you continue averaging down, you're kind of betting and hoping rather than having an actual trading strategy. So like continuing to average down on calls here with hopes that we get a bounce to where you break even is a dangerous way to trade this. Honestly, this is a good spot if you're one of those people that purely wants to trade calls. You just need to wait on AMD until we got an actual true reversal, because we don't have a reversal. In fact, the weekly is looking hella bearish at this point. So keep an eye on AMD, this measured move. You can see that also similar to the trend line that we were watching here on Tuesday, that we poked our head up above and then rejected back below. All three trend lines we have rejected back within on AMD, so on all time frames. So definitely keep an eye on this. Again, I know that some people are averaging into long-term shares, and that's fine. This actually, if you're long-minded on AMD and you've got the capital, not a bad spot to go cash secured puts. Just saying, if you get assigned and you hold the shares, so be it. If you don't, you're making gains in the meantime. So this is a good setup probably. I know Tony's been asking about opportunities to use the wheel strategy and start with cash secured puts. I know that this is an expensive stock to do that with, but good opportunity for something if you're long on AMD. Again, I'm a fan of AMD and I use their processors when I'm building PCs. So just talking straight from the technical standpoint, Let's jump through a couple of other big tech tickers here. Google. So some people in the Discords that I'm in know what happened with me on this today. So we made huge gains on some Google puts today. That being said, I also left 5 as runners into close that expired in the money, and didn't think about that on this one small account challenge account I'm using, and I got assigned. So now there's an account deficit of 96 grand for 5. Basically, it purchased 500 shares of Google at 192.50 per share. Is what happened. So I'm not stressed about that. It is what it is. Like I know how to sell covered calls and hedge accordingly in this range. Would I have flat out bought shares here? Probably not, but it's okay. We made some gains with premium, and I will see what happens Monday on the shares assignment to determine how to proceed with that. But yeah, like this setup right now on Google, you can see we broke out of the pivot to the upside, but we're consolidating relatively range bound at the moment. So if we can break out to the upside here and push higher, you can see both measured moves are in play. Alternatively, if we see something happen like what we saw on Tesla and we break to the downside here, we're probably going to head to start filling gaps like that 176.26 gap. And I'm going to jump over to SPY because it's a good example of why using gap fills as measured move targets. Like, so when I was measuring the move for this existing setup on SPY, it was more conservative than 1.46%, but instead of doing whatever the full measured move was at the time, I actually made it a little bit shorter to make it more conservative and aligned it with the gap fill, which you can see worked out really well today because not only did it play out the measured move, it perfectly tagged the gap fill and bounced, right? So that would be a great opportunity to exit puts if you ran them. You can see that it retraced and rejected again harshly, so we still could see more downside on SPY. And in fact, if you're looking over here, it's looking more like that. The head and shoulders is still intact. We broke the downtrend, or I'm sorry, the uptrend. If you look at the weekly, it's another example of breaking the uptrend, rechasing, rejecting that trend, and now forming a downward, maybe reversal. So we're going to see how stuff shakes out in the coming week. That's a hell of a bearish engulfing candle on the weekly for SPY. Just a reminder that SPY and QQQ are being driven by the top weighted contributors to each of those indices and not the other way around. So while SPY and QQQ will respect technical movement, you need to keep an eye on the top weighted contributors, which is why I've got this watch list called Big Tech, to see what that movement is driving. Especially Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia are driving a lot of the movement with SPY and QQQ right now. Look at QQQ while we're on the topic. QQQ, same similar thing, right? So I actually was considering getting in some swing QQQ puts to kind of hedge longer term shareholdings and stuff earlier this week. I'm kind of sad I didn't because I saw it reject at this downtrend line. And you can see that we are now forming a downtrend as well as what we saw in those others. And you're noticing a consistent pattern here, right? Uptrend broke, bounce, retrace, rejection at trend, hard drop. So technicals play out quite well, and this is why it's important to look at both setups and not just look at this as we're consolidating and move higher, because just because we consolidate after a consistent uptrend doesn't mean that we keep doing like we did back here where we consolidate and just immediately move higher. There's a lot of uncertainty going on now with the new administration, with Fed rates, lots going on, right? So measured move, rejection here is going to be towards that gap fill around that 493 level. Watch out for the $500 psychological level on QQQ. But yeah, right here, something definitely to keep an eye on. Jumping over to Apple, because Apple's not looking so hot either. So Apple, the one thing that I really dig on Apple here, and again, sorry, lots of lines because we've been scalping some trades on it, but Apple, it's at least holding this previous level that was a supply zone, and it looks like it's turning into a demand zone. So you've got the confluence of that zone along with this uptrend here. So it bounced nicely at that trend line today, you can see. But be careful, because these bounces are kind of what I was talking about on AMD. They can be dangerous if you go in calls, or if you were already in calls, you try to average in. That bounce right there is not going to be enough to offset losses that we're taking along the way on SPY here. So just be careful, because what we've been watching a lot of these do is basically break a key support, move down, retrace, reject, add a resistance, move lower, right? And then if you're looking at a larger time frame, you're going to see a similar type of setup going on. So breakdown, retrace, rejected, right? Consolidated, it tried to move higher, it rejected again. At this, actually, this needs to be a major at this point because that's to me rejectance. And then consolidated, moved lower, used that support, broke that support. Now you see the pattern, right? So definitely something to keep an eye on a lot of these. I'm gonna jump over to Amazon. Amazon's trying to hold this range right now. I'm not loving that it broke that uptrend it had at this point. So it's trying. It's like right at the cusp of it. And I shared the TA on this one earlier this week and last week, but it could have gone either way, right? That's why it's important to not only look at the upside movement, but also look at the downside potential as well. If this does break, it's going to be a similar play out to what we saw in QQQ, where it follows this downtrend continuation. You're probably going to see a move down to this, what is that, the 214 level, and then potentially if that breaks, we're heading to 200. But not trading puts on any of these like swings or anything like that. Just for the most part, I'm sticking with other tickers and trading shorter dated, quick in and out setups at this point. We looked at AMD, we looked at Google. Oh, sorry, the one thing I didn't mention on here, not super concerned about the assignment on the 500 shares with this, just because as of right now it is holding this range. So I want to see if it can hold this range, and maybe, even if it consolidates in the zone, that's not a bad place for me to sell covered calls, because the premiums will get decayed during that consolidation. So it hedges my calls, or hedges my shares, and I benefit from the premium. Microsoft. Another one, man, like, I really don't like that all these charts we're looking at just don't look great longer term, right? So Microsoft broke a trend again. If you look at the weekly here, yeah, same thing as what we saw on the others. So we had an uptrend, we broke the uptrend, and then we rejected at it. So not so great on Microsoft. There's also a larger time frame head and shoulders pattern here on Microsoft that I've been keeping an eye on. And this is why you can't invalidate something on head and shoulders just because the right shoulder like moves higher than the left shoulder. The head and shoulders is not invalidated until we see a higher high above the head. So as of right now, the head and shoulders is still very much intact. I could draw it out, but just for the sake of time, I'm not going to. I'll put it on the updated charts, and y'all can look at that if you want to. Let's see, what's the next one if we're going through? So Meta, scalps and puts on Meta that went nuts today, but it won't swing puts on it, right? Similar thing. This thing, actually, if I look at the daily, it's trying to go for that bullish continuation that me and several people have been watching on Meta. And this, I forget who it was. Somebody was trading calls last earnings, and they bought like some $700 calls, like literally in November for earnings, and not far out of the money that short term. That's how you just donate money to option sellers. So watching this, want to see if we consolidate here and can move higher, or if we are about to hit a reversal. Would we trade intraday? So intraday, I saw the rejection on it. Alright, this thing's trying to load, I guess. Go 5 minute. So saw the rejection intraday and took puts on it. Those went nuts. It was very late in the day, but entered some 615 puts and scalped them. But those things actually went 680% gains, which was kind of crazy. Going from $25 to $195. So, I mean, great example of don't be scared of big tech tickers for shorter term trades, but I'm going to continue to advocate against like swinging calls and puts and stuff on a lot of these big tech tickers right now, just because the risk to reward's not worth it on a lot of them. We looked at Nvidia. SMCI was a little frustrated because I saw some $33 puts coming through my flows on my screeners earlier today, and I was like, I should buy those. They're really cheap. And I didn't. And then this big, huge drop candle happened, and those things went huge gains. So should trade that. SMH, this is one I've been talking to people about for a while now, and this is why you don't assume with the first little tiny pop that comes up, especially when you're seeing that based off some news like a NVIDIA event at CES. This head and shoulders is still intact on SMH here, so definitely be careful on semiconductors going forward. You already saw what AMD looks like. You're seeing what NVIDIA is starting to look like as well. some of the news and the data this week is not helping. The news around Biden's export restrictions isn't helping. Impeding tariffs from the Trump administration aren't going to help. So I'm not saying trade puts on semiconductors. I'm saying be careful because you don't want to get trapped in a lot of these, especially considering a lot of the options are really expensive. So keeping an eye on that just for consideration. We looked at Tesla earlier. If anybody just joined, feel free to go back and kind of watch the beginning of the video where I covered this to kind of talk through the levels. I remained in many of my covered calls today just because I want to be hedged in case we break that trend, but probably should have closed out 3 of the 7. IWM, so this thing gets hammered anytime anything negative for interest rates comes into play because you've got lots of small and mid caps within IWM. So why does it get hammered? Because when money is expensive to borrow, the small and mid cap companies struggle a bit more than mega caps do because it costs them too much money to borrow, right? So a lot of the small and mid caps were counting on Fed interest rate cuts because that would allow cheaper money in a sense to be able to scale and expand their business if they were to borrow it, but we didn't see that. So IWM, we're seeing a similar bear flag breakdown. Did this thing fill the gap from the overnight or did it just get real close? Interesting. So we just got real close. So that might retrace back up to 219. Not going to try to trade calls like that to try to catch it on a swing. Like the risk to reward's just not worth it. And before anyone assumes all I do is trade puts, let me clarify. Definitely not the case. And more calls than puts at the given moment, but also being very smart about what tickers I'm playing. I traded calls on AMD earlier today off the support bounce when I saw the continuation and the momentum and the options movement and the gamma that supported it. So those AMD calls actually ended up going 125% because they were short dated. And why did I not go with further dated? Because you don't get the percentage movement you would need from a further dated option if you're looking at a short time frame like that. So that worked out really well. Let's see, what other things do we need to look at? We definitely need to look at Bitcoin real quick. Because people are freaking out over Bitcoin. I've already shared with some people that I am not going anywhere in my crypto. Let me actually show you this. Let's just do this. Look, green. So, not stressing on crypto at all still. I know that there's a head and shoulders there. Again, not going to look at stuff unbiased, but understanding what drives movement within crypto, I'm a lot less concerned about the head and shoulders pattern there at the given moment, just because I know that there's multiple bullish catalysts coming up in the coming weeks and months, especially in Q1 for Bitcoin. The key thing that I'm looking for on Bitcoin here is on the weekly. I would like to see it hold above that 92K range, right? You can see that that is a strong support zone that we've had, and honestly, consolidation, the more we consolidate here, the more we're prepared for a bigger breakout to the upside if we get it, right? So I'll go ahead and just, conservatively move this over here. So we are technically still counting that as a downtrend because it is. But, as of right now, I'm not super concerned on crypto. Lots of opportunity. We haven't seen true alt season yet. So I'll be maintaining my crypto positions. Maybe at some point I'll share those with people in the streams as well, so that y'all actually understand that I've got something at stake there. But for the time being, just the people in the Discords can be aware of that. But yeah, watching this, I want to see if it can hold that range. Real quick, a couple of other stocks to look at. Very exposed on Tesla right now. Caught in a put. Mariah, I don't know if you're in the Discord or if you want to put that in the lounge though, or shoot me a message on Discord. You'll have to add me as a friend first though, on Discord. But let's talk about some ways that maybe you can, you're exposed on your Tesla position right now. Let's talk through maybe some ways that you can hedge that position, or I'm not gonna tell someone how when to buy or sell something because not a financial advisor, right? I'm not gonna get into the legality of that, but I can kind of give you some insight because I've traded Tesla a lot the last 4 years on multiple different directions and positions, and I hold a large number of shares. So Yeah, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll see if I can help you out with figuring out what to do on your Tesla position. So Hood entered more long calls on Hood today because loving the setup, and I think that we're going to have those bullish catalysts for crypto come into play. So I think that's going to help serve as a catalyst to give this a continuation, a breakout. If you've got an inverse head and shoulders here, we're maintaining the bull flag on the larger time frames. So like Hood's looking solid, honestly, but this is a good example that just because the broader market is taking a dump and big tech is getting wrecked, there's plenty of other tickers you can go out there and trade and make big gains on them. So watching this setup on Robinhood, Applied Digital's getting hammered a bit because of Nvidia, but if you notice here, it's technically still in the same pattern. So it's still playing out, it's still respecting it well. Applied Digital's a great stock for people to get exposure into in the coming months for a good swing. SoFi, let's see what this looks like after the interest rate. I mean, I would have liked to see it hold that support level up a little bit higher, but I can live with this, right? So we're just back testing the previous bullish breakout range right now. Weekly's got a lot of red going on there, but also a little bit less volume. So we'll see what SoFi does in next week. See if I need to average into longer term calls more. Sound, this big huge drop you see on this is because the relation to AI and Nvidia and all the crap that went down this week. So Sound's catching the same support bounce it looks like in here this range. So ideally I want to see it hold that range and push higher. I'll be looking to add more calls based on how that plays out. GameStop. You're on Discord, Mariah? Yeah, sweet. Tag me in the lounge. And I don't know which one you're in because I'm in like 3 in multiple streams. Like people are in here from all kinds of Discords, but tag me in the lounge on whichever one you're in, and I will help you out. So yeah, GME, like still looking bullish, right? Another good example of something that regardless of what the broader tech market is doing, GameStop's looking solid, trying to push up higher here. Let's see what else is on our list. Plug. So Plug, we actually got into some shares this week, and I'm glad we did. So this is a good example of why you don't look purely just at technicals or what the broader market is doing. And I hate when people just look at the broader market for like making a decision on entry on everything, because Plug actually had a lot of supporting data behind the scenes that looked bullish. So I started adding myself into some more shares on Plug as well as have swing calls on it. And we got this nice big fat pop today. That is a bullish engulfing daily candle. What ideally I would like to see here is volume increasing and maybe a push up. So if we get some retracement bounces on the broader market and other stuff next week, maybe that gives it a little bit of sympathy. But ultimately, watching this to see how it shakes out. We did fill the gap and reject it today. So that's honestly good in my opinion to have the gap out of the way, because that's exactly where it rejected. But I'm looking for bullish continuation here on the daily and weekly. It's Analyzer that liked the post over there. What's your Discord? It's in the description, Mariah, if you want to click it, the Discord or whatever. I'm on multiple. There's a link for one there, and then there's more on my profile if you need them. But yeah, Ethical Trading's mine. Then Bullish Rate is one. It's got, like 30,000+ members on. I've been really close friends with the owner of that one for several years. I've been analyst over there. So those are the two primary ones I'm actively an analyst on, and then I am actively involved in several others, just not kind of as a moderator or analyst, but always over on the Unusual Whales Discord as well. You said Applied. We looked at Applied, right? Yep, we looked at Applied Analyzer. If you scroll back a little bit in the thing, we looked at Sound. Palantir we have not looked at. Let me look at Palantir real quick. Yeah, I can live with this. Like, people have been asking me how I feel about Palantir. I mean, I think Palantir, I'm still bullish on the stock for 2025. For one, it's maintaining this bullish setup here, similar to what we saw previously. But also, I know Palantir's got the exposure within the cybersecurity and intelligence realm. And I think if global tensions do arise in the coming weeks, that Palantir is going to get a benefit from that. But also, from a SaaS analytics standpoint, I think their SaaS numbers look great. So that's something definitely to keep in mind here. It might be a good opportunity to go ahead and average into some longer term calls on it if you're still bullish. I'm maintaining my shares, so I'm at 1711. So I'll keep riding them out. I need to probably hedge them if we break the support range, but as of right now, riding that out. We looked at SoFi already, Analyzer. Let's see, we looked at Hood. I'm not going to crank through all the crypto stocks just because I got to get off in a minute and actually go play in the snow with my kids. I've had non-stop meetings this week and haven't had a chance to, but I mean, from my standpoint, Coinbase and crypto is still looking good. Look, Coin is getting a perfect back test and bounce at that zone. So if you want to be long on Coinbase, I think this is a good opportunity. I think a lot of these crypto exchanges probably had really great earnings this quarter because of all the transactional volume that took place. So definitely something to keep in mind on them. Let's see. Next one I will look at is MicroStrategy just because people are freaking out over the pullback on MicroStrategy. And I'm like, guys, look, it's still good. Ooh, we're actually forming an inverse head and shoulders right here. So, ooh. I like it. Any of the selling that's going on here is probably Sailor selling off more shares to buy more Bitcoin, which in turn is going to send Bitcoin up, which in turn is going to send MicroStrategy up. So not super concerned about the pullback here. Daily and weekly. Yeah, no, that's actually, if anything, on the weekly, that might be a reversal candle that we got printed here with that hammer. So, yeah. I want to buy more MSTY now after seeing that. Like we're in a nice little zone to do that too. Y'all just remember, a bunch of y'all were like, dang, I really wish I would have bought more MSTY last week. Y'all kept telling me that over here. Well, this week you got your chance, right? So, good opportunity, ridiculous monthly payment of dividends to come out of that too. So, keep an eye on MSTY. Good opportunity. Let's see. On that note, I might wrap it up. Let me make sure I didn't miss any ticker requests over here. These dudes over here talking about that assignment on the puts. M-ski and morning. Because I got assigned on the 5 puts for Google at 192.50, which, like I said, I'm okay with it. Cool. Alright. I'm not seeing any additional requests over here in the chat specifically, so... Oh no, the link says expired? That's no bueno. Hold on. I got you. It shouldn't say expired though. I think it works if I put it in the other. Somebody else wanna hit the link for me? Or here, I got it. Give that one a try, Mariah. I'll say that. That didn't go into the chat. I guess only the actual main person can put it in. Give me a second. I'll drop it in for you. Let me do this. We're going to get you a link one way or another. Yes, I'm 18 years old. Huh. It works when I pull it up over here on mine for some reason. But you're not the first person that said that says expired for some reason. So let me click this other one for you real quick so that you have it. 2 seconds, I'll grab it. Really don't know why that says it's expired because it's not. Alright, it's taking me a minute because I'm on multiple PCs pulling this up. Let's see. I bet you this one works for you. Give that one a try. And I bet it works. Okay, cool. That's you that sent me a message on stock quits. That works too. Sweet. I just want to make sure you get, taken care of on the Tesla assignment or Tesla position to make sure that you know how to hedge it and whatnot. So I'll help you out with that. Um, and it may not be today, but I promise I'll get back with you. So definitely help you figure out how to hedge that accordingly, or figure out whether you should stay in it longer. Let's see. Any other last minute ticker requests? Let me check over here. You lose profits though. Robinhood should have cashed you out. Yeah, they should have, but Robinhood won. They were like, basically, here you let, and I can't. It's kind of my fault because technically they're supposed to force sell whatever options you have that are close to the end of money by like close, and I kept on canceling their order and kept forcing it through to ride it longer. So it's my fault that it got closed, or it closed at the end of the day in the money. So 500 shares of Google. Woohoo! Um, I'll sell covered calls on it. Let's see what else. Actually, there is no other ones here, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up and try to go play in the snow with the kids. If there's anything else y'all want, feel free to reach out to me. Either any of the socials that I'm on, Twitter, Talk Twits, all that good stuff. They're all over the place. So, again, thanks everyone for joining. If you do listen to this either now, live, or later, please do feel free to like, subscribe, and share it on your socials. My goal is not to make a bunch of money off of it, but just to help others and share kind of, unbiased analysis and learn how to look at things from both perspectives, because I've been there as far as looking at stuff from only the bullish side. So thanks everyone. Have a good night. Hope you have a great weekend. Talk to you later.